Hello and welcome back. So, the title of this lecture is How to Identify What is Actually Holding Your Child Back. So, if we look at what we did last time, so in the last video, we talked about one of the biggest myths in GCSE maths, the idea that working harder automatically leads to better grades. We explored the fact that most students are not struggling because they're lazy, but rather they're struggling because something specific is getting in the way. And that's exactly what we're going to identify today, because before you can solve a problem, as you know, you need to know what the problem actually is. In other words, we are going to do a diagnosis before we give a prescription. So, just moving on. One of the biggest mistakes parents make is focusing on symptoms rather than the causes. Okay? So, the symptoms are easy to see: low grades, you know, exam stress, lack of motivation, frustration. But those are things that are the visible part of the problem. If we think of it like an iceberg, right, what you see above the surface isn't really the issue. The issue is what is underneath. Okay? If we don't identify the root cause, we end up applying the wrong solutions. And that's where months of effort can be wasted. Okay, so this is a very important thing to keep an eye on. Now, over the years, I've found that most struggling students fall into one of these four categories: the knowledge gap student, the exam technique student, the inconsistent student, and the okay, I've done that wrong. Okay, let's go back. And the confident student. Now, many students overlap, okay? But usually there's one dominant issue of these four that needs to be addressed first. And as I go through these, I want you to truly ask yourself, which one sounds like my student, like my child? And before we move on, I just want to say I've worked with many students from different backgrounds, ranging abilities, from grade 2 students trying to just pass the GCSEs to grade 6 students, 7 students, 8 students trying to get 8s or 9s. What I always find interesting is when I start working with them, they all fall into one of these four categories. Some of them have knowledge gaps, but also confidence issues, exam technique issues, but they're also inconsistent. So it's either one or more, but no matter what ability range your student, your child falls under, they all fall into one of these, in my experience, in my 7 years of tutoring GCSE maths. So let's look at these individually. Okay. The first type is the knowledge gap student. This student is often working hard. They're attending their lessons, they're revising, they're trying, but progress feels incredibly difficult. Not because they're incapable, but because important foundations are missing. And when the foundations are not secure, everything built on top becomes harder, like we said last time. If your child regularly says things like, I don't get it, or I used to know this but I've forgotten it, if they get stuck early in questions, if they make the same mistakes again and again, right? If advanced topics feel like overwhelming very quickly, that's a good way to notice that your child is dealing with a knowledge gap. Okay? And these gaps often go back years to like year 7, maybe even back into primary. Okay? Now, now, this is where many parents accidentally make the problem worse. The natural response is to practice the difficult topic more. More algebra, more trigonometry, more exam questions. But often, the difficult topic isn't the problem. It's the symptom. For example, a student struggling with algebra may actually have weak fractions or negative number skills. We need to fix the foundation, and then the advanced topics are going to suddenly become much easier. And that's why diagnosis is problem. Yeah, is diagnosis matters so much. Sorry, but yeah, you know, algebra isn't always the be all end all. We have to go deeper into the issue, and then we will see, where this student is actually struggling, and then we can fix it properly. So if we move on, the second type of student is the exam technique student. This is one of the most misunderstood students I have worked with because they often know much more maths than their grade suggests. And it's unfortunate, but it's the reality in this with the schooling system we have. They're capable students, very capable. They understand the content, but their performance in exams don't reflect what they know. And it's so heartbreaking, it's so demoralizing. I understand. Now, you'll often recognize this student because their homework scores are higher than their test scores, okay? Homeworks are noticeably better than their test scores. They make silly mistakes. They run out of time. They don't show enough working. Or they come out of exams saying, I know how to do that, or I knew how to do that. If that sounds familiar, knowledge may not be the problem at all. Okay? So this one is a bit of a hidden gem, sort of to acknowledge. But if you can acknowledge this, then, you can easily fix a lot of things. Now, again, parents often assume the answer is more revision. But if the student already understands the content, more content revision isn't going to solve the issue. Okay? It's not going to solve it. The problem is the execution. Exam technique is a skill. Understanding mark schemes, managing time, showing working, clear working, checking answers. These are all learnable skills and they can often unlock marks very, very quickly. Okay? So I don't want to spend too long on each of these, but as long as you get the general gist of each, then we can make progress. The inconsistent student. This student can be incredibly frustrating because you know they're capable. You know they're capable of so much. You see flashes of brilliance here or there, good results, good weeks, moments where everything clicks, but that momentum disappears suddenly. If your child starts revision plans enthusiastically but doesn't stick to them, if motivation comes and goes, if some weeks are fantastic and others are completely unproductive, you may be dealing with an inconsistency problem. And these students often rely on motivation rather than systems. And when I was doing my GCSEs, up until year 10, when I started taking things seriously, I was one of these students. And so I can really empathize with students in this category. I've been there myself. Now, the common mistake parents make here is assuming the child needs more discipline. All right? Counterintuitive, I know. They need more pressure. They need more consequences. They need more motivation. But in my experience, the real issue is usually structure. It's structure. The students who improve consistently are not necessarily the most motivated. They're the ones with the clearest systems. Consistency. Consistency always beats intensity, and it does it every single time. I promise you. Okay? It always beats intensity. Now, this is the last one. It's the confident student. And this is often the most emotional category because confidence has become the barrier itself. You'll often hear phrases like, I'm just bad at maths. I can't do this. What's the point? These students avoid challenge. They give up quickly. They panic during tests. And they often need constant reassurance. The heartbreaking part is that many of them are more capable than they realize. Okay? The mistake parents make is believing confidence can be rebuilt with encouragement alone. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Don't get me wrong, encouragement definitely does matter. It matters a lot. But confidence doesn't grow because someone says you can do it. It doesn't work like that. Confidence grows when students experience progress and success, when they internalize they can do something, right? Small wins that prove they are capable of achieving. Confidence always follows evidence. Remember that. Confidence follows evidence. As soon as the student gains evidence that they can achieve what they want to achieve, their confidence is going to skyrocket. Okay? So let me move my face so I'm not blocking anything. Now, I'd like you to pause for a moment. Which student sounded most like your student, like your child? The knowledge gap, the exam technique, the inconsistent, the confident student? Don't overthink it. Just choose the one that felt most familiar to you. Okay? So you can pause the video, and I encourage pausing throughout the video because I know my slides have a lot of content on them. If your child fits more than one category, right, like these, like most students do, I'll be honest, right? That's completely normal, so don't worry. For example, like I've shown you here, the knowledge gap and the confidence, and the exam technique and the inconsistent. So the goal isn't to create a perfect label, okay? That's an important thing. Our goal here isn't to create a perfect label. The goal is to simply identify where to start. As soon as we can see where we need to start, then we can start making real progress in the right direction. And that's all that matters. So hopefully by now you've started to see your child more clearly, right? Hopefully I've painted a decent enough picture. Not as a student who's failing, by the way, not as a student who needs to work harder, but as a student facing a specific challenge that can be addressed. And that's exactly what we're going to do next. Because once you've diagnosed the problem, it's time to build the solution. And my face keeps blocking everything, so I'm sorry. Okay, so what's coming next? In the next video, I'll walk you through the GCSE Maths Improvement Framework. The exact framework that I have used to help many students move from feeling stuck to making consistent progress, because diagnosis is important, but diagnosis alone doesn't improve grades, as I've said so many times in this lecture. The right plan improves your grades, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for your time.